in the next hour with some talk about what is International Women's Day. And we're going to have some special presentations from our politicians who are here on this day as well. But first I'd like to recognize that we are on Sinixt territory and that Marilyn James is here to lead us with a welcoming prayer for the day. Thanks, Marilyn.
Thank you, well, I hope you've been enjoying your International Women's Day and celebrating your mothers and your aunties and your daughters and honoring yourself as a woman. Yesterday, I spoke to some students at W.E. Graham. They handed me this tobacco. And one of the teachers said to me, you know, we always tell our children, don't smoke. Tobacco's not good for you. Yet, the only thing that we have to offer in terms of protocol that we know is tobacco. And she says, you know, I don't really feel very good about it. And if you could just explain to the children that it's protocol. It's not for smoking. It's for praying with. It's for honoring. It's to show respect. And I said, yes. Sometimes it's very confusing because we grow up with conflicted messages. And we grow up to have conflicts, inner conflicts, because it's not all right, it's all right, it's all right if it's done this way. Sometimes violence is justifiable, you know, sometimes we're at war. Sometimes it's the eminent domain that must take over the land. And then Mother Earth has to suffer, and then consequently people suffer. And all that is a big conflict because we say, you know, we should honor this. We should do this. We should do that. But what we actually do is something else. So I told those children when this little girl came and gave me this tobacco, I said, you know, thank you very much for honoring me. Thank you for respecting and acknowledging my ancestors that took care of this place and the land, because when you honor us, you honor this place. And when you honor this place, you honor us. I said, but it doesn't have to be tobacco. It could be a sweet braid grass, a braid of sweetgrass. It could be cedar. It could be juniper. It could be a little patch of cloth, fresh cloth, not something you've worn and ready to discard, but a nice little fresh, crisp square of, for us, yellow. We're sun worshipers. So they were happy to hear that. When we come to when we come to prayer, when we have winter dance and those kinds of things, we like to say, we come to those prayers with one heart, one mind, one spirit. When we have a ceremony and we take medicine, we come to that medicine and we pray together with that medicine with one heart, one mind, one spirit. Maybe somebody isn't feeling good, and so we pray for them to feel better. Maybe we're celebrating somebody's birth, but we're all thinking about, aren't we lucky, the day that person was born. And we're here to share this medicine and partake in something. We all think about it together. we all put our minds on one thing, and we feel it in our heart, and we become bonded in spirit on that one wish. It's important that we bond on our wish and on our prayers. So tonight, I want to bring this tobacco. I'm going to take a little pinch, and I'm going to pray with it. And that prayer is going to go on this tobacco. And I'm going to set this tobacco down there, and I hope if you'd like to share one heart, one mind, one spirit in that prayer, please feel free to come and take a pinch of this tobacco. Put it in your pocket, take it to the water, or take it to your special spot, or lay it by your door, and honor this day. Grandmother and grandfather, I'd like to offer this tobacco to the north, to the east, to the south, to the west, and to our sacred mountain, Frog Mountain, Hadikin. We're here today to honor women. Women who've given us life. Women who've suffered their losses. Women who've wept in their joy. Women who make food and give us nourishment. Women who struggle in poverty. Women who die at the hands of violence and suffer for no just reason. For all of those women and Mother Earth, I offer this tobacco. And in the spirit of prayer, I lay this tobacco down so that all the women in the world will feel on their heart a little warmth, a little solidarity, a little reverence, a little respect. Limnant, 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 limnant.
Welcome to the West Kootenai Women's Association celebration of International Women's Day. IWD was first celebrated in, I believe, 1909. Yes, the 28th of February, 1909. And at that point in time, it was in recognition and commemoration of the women, the 140 women who died in the shirtwaist factory in Massachusetts. It was Massachusetts or New York? Sorry, Triangle Shirtwaist Factory in New York. The women were locked into lofts to keep them working constantly, and they were monitored at every moment. But they weren't monitored when the fire started, and the fire spread, and 140 women died. And at that point in time, the labor movement decided to take on the concept of International Women's Day. And so it began to be celebrated in many places around the world. Many protests followed on March 8th because women from clothing and textile factories started in, actually, a protest on March 8th, 1857 in New York City. The garment workers, again, the poor working conditions and the low wages. And these women established their first labor union in that 2 months later. So in 1932, a Soviet poster dedicated the 8th of March a holiday. The text reads, "The 8th of March is the day of the rebellion of the women working against kitchen slavery. And down with the oppression and narrow-mindedness of household work." Originally in the USSR, the holiday had a clear political character, emphasizing the role of the Soviet state in the liberation of women from second-class citizens. The day today, March 8th, remains a holiday in Albania, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Cameroon, China, Cuba, Italy, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Macedonia, Moldavia, Mongolia, Montenegro, Poland, Latvia, Russia, Serbia, Tajikistan, Ukraine, Uzbekistan, and Vietnam, and is observed by men, giving the women in their lives, women, mothers, girlfriends, colleagues, flowers, and small gifts. In some countries, it is also observed as an equivalent of Mother's Day, where children also give small presents to their mothers. In 1975, which the UN had designated as the International Year of the Women, the International Women's Year, the United Nations began to think about an official day for International Women's Day. And today, around the world, we see that women are celebrating and fighting and struggling. This morning I heard a report was just released, completed by Gillian Crease and down in Vancouver, about, and sponsored by the BC Federation of Labor, which looked at wages and benefits and really the position of women. And we have found in the past 10 years, or the past 7 years, that since 2001, the percentage, the numbers of people living in poverty and the gap between those making the very highest amounts of money and the very lowest amounts of money has increased some, 15 or 20%. So there are way more people who are rich and way more people who are poor than there have ever been in Canada before. So these are not, we can celebrate some of the, yes, I'm a construction carpenter and I know other women are technical workers as well, but I know the struggles that they have had to undergo. And so when I say that we have not made the progress that we need to, I encourage everyone to think about that in their lives and how that manifests for them. But on the positive side, over the years, the United Nations Action for the Advancement of Women, and they have just recently rededicated themselves to eliminating the inequality of women in the world. And they've taken 4 clear directions: the promotion of legal measures, the mobilization of public opinion and international action, training and research, including a compilation of gender disaggregated statistics, which, of course, in British Columbia, the collection of gender disaggregated statistics in our schools has been eliminated back in 1997. And again, direct assistance to disadvantaged groups. Today, a central organizing principle of the work of the United Nations is that no enduring solution to society's most threatening social, economic, and political problems can be found, as we have heard from Stephen Lewis, without the full participation and the full empowerment of the world's women. So let's get out there and keep moving. Thank you.
I have the pleasure of being on the Coordinating Collective for the West Kootenay Women's Association. And I also am replacing Kathleen Luckton. We have a wonderful coordinator, Kathleen Luckton, who takes several people to replace her when she's sick in her home. I want to send light and love to Kathleen right now. Just today, Corky's here, and in his last years of the NDP, he put out a health guide. We went through it today with Kathleen. She has all the symptoms of pneumonia, and she's also doing everything it says in there to do. So let's send her light and love and hope she's back soon. So, one of the main things that the West Kootenay Women's Association does is run the Nelson and District Women's Center. There's a drop-in program twice a week, Tuesday and Wednesday from noon till 4. And everybody that's volunteered with that program this last year, would you please stand up? Stand up. Kathleen trains women who are then volunteers and they run that program. Thank you. And Sky from the team of it is the team of it person that's placed at the Women's Center. Thank you to those volunteers. This drop-in center offers referrals to services for women, offers free food, thanks to Johnny's Bakery, Emma's Harvest, Kootenai Co-op Bakery, and the Tofu Guy. You can get those on Tuesdays, I believe. There's a free store that a lot of you probably donate your clothes for children and women to. It's a meeting place for many groups. The Gay and Bisexual Collective meets there, the Company of Older Women, the Young Women's Group, Circle of Abandia Lending Society. And this year, WKWA has allowed Abandia to have an office there at the Women's Center. So Michelle Mangal is the staff person for Abandia, so we're now located there. The library. Sandra Hartline, would you please stand up? Sandra has just taken over being on the library committee. Very important job. We had Kaylinda retire this year, and you'll never guess how many years she looked after that library. 17. So these are the women that grease our organizations and keep us going, and thank you to them. Now we have, we're trying to raise money for the library currently, and there's exciting things happening, like Kashka is starting a book club, and Ilaria Supa's book, Threads of My Life, will be the first book that they're going to read with that book club, and I think Kashka will talk about that later. Very exciting project this year is the bag project. It's women sewing together. These beautiful bags were all made by women that are selling all over town. And it started out as a fundraiser for the Women's Center, and now the women that are doing the sewing are also getting some of the benefits of that. So it's turning into a wonderful productive project, and hopefully, or it may look like a cooperative and a social enterprise in this next year. I want to thank our funders, the Gaming Commission, Osprey Foundation, Kootenai Savings and Credit Union, the Lions Club. These are all groups that have donated money to keep the Women's Center going this year. And, oh, I was going to say this at the beginning. If any of these projects jump out at you and you'd like to be involved, we welcome involvement. Our Coordinating Collective has very few people on it this year. We could really use some more help. It's 4 hours a month that we put into meetings. And then we have volunteer committees that we'd like to see more of, a political awareness committee, for example. So if you would like to be involved or have any ideas about what we could be doing, please talk to Kathleen Lecton when she's better. So I think that's all I have to say. Marcia Braundy is going to come up and tell you about a larger project that's been submitted to the Status of Women.
So I did mention about being a carpenter and seeing that there are a lot of women, or there are some women who are entering those fields, the technical fields. We have put together, and of course, if you have read the papers at all in the past couple of years, you recognize that the skills shortage that they were talking to me about in 1980 is, of course, now upon us. They all said, there's a skill shortage coming and we're going to need the women to fill it. And every time we tried to put projects together to make it possible for the women to prepare themselves to do this, they put the kibosh on them. So now we're in a situation where the skill shortage is upon us. And they're saying, oh, well, let's just import them from outside. When in fact women have the opportunity, need to be able to have the opportunity to raise themselves up out of the poverty level that so many women exist in, and go out and do interesting, dynamic, and exciting work that takes them, if they like to work outdoors, if they like to work with computers, if they like to work with many of the areas that are currently male-dominated, and those, in fact, are the ones that are the most involved in the skill shortages today. So we decided, particularly because we have an upcoming dam project at the WITT project. It's not a dam project, it's increasing the hydroelectric capacity of the dams that have already been built. So we're looking forward to working with the Columbia Power Corporation and also with Selkirk College and the Trail Skills Center and the Kootenai Career Development Association to we've put together a course that it's not the technical skills course. Selkirk College does that. They have the STEP program. It's a wonderful program. But because they had a difficult human rights situation there not long ago, they were really afraid, and they took out all the things from that course that would really help the women be able to succeed. Things like assertiveness training, things like human rights understanding and sexual harassment, how to deal with sexual harassment and things like that. They took all that stuff out of the course. So we're going to put it back in and do a preparatory course for women who are considering the STEP program or any other trades training program to help them be able to be successful out there. And we're really excited about the partnerships that we have been developing. But of course, the funding has to come from the Status of Women Canada. And I would really urge you to write to the Prime Minister at this time and say gender equality begins at home. And if the UN is making all of these, we're going to make gender equality be the word of the world. Well, it's not the word of the world here in British Columbia or in Canada. And the current federal government has cut an incredible amount of millions of dollars from the funding for women's organizations and activities for women in this country. But we are really hoping that they will see this project, because it's a skills shortage project that will help industry, that they will in fact fund it. Because not only is it to help the women be prepared, but it is also working with the unions and working with the employers in the area to help them make more welcoming workplaces. That's a really important piece, because we don't want to train the women and then send them out there into the same old. Because what we want is we want to have the workplaces changing, not just the women. And then, if we get the project and it's a go, we're also going to be working with the Trail Skills Center to get the Girls Exploring Trades and Technology camps up and running again. So for the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade girls, going out there and building go-karts and racing them and finding their hands on the tools and the kind of self-esteem that you get from that kind of work. And so, wish us luck. We should be hearing this month.
Well, before I bring you greetings from the Voice of Women, I would just like to commend and give you my deep, deep gratitude for the women that are here and what you manage to do every year, and that how key the Women's Center is in this community, and what a fantastic job the association does. I should tell you that I do brag about you a lot, and I know Marcia was going through the list of all of the countries in the world that actually give women a day off, and they celebrate them, and communities come out. And it's our sisters in Venezuela that should be on that list as well, because last year I had an opportunity to march with literally thousands and thousands of women, and they do get a day off with pay and all kinds of celebrations and t-shirts and dignitaries and so on. And so the few women that I was communicating with in my broken Spanish, I really bragged about the events here, and particularly they were very keenly interested in 5 feminist minutes, right down to where the hook comes out and takes people off. So anyways, I have greetings here from Helen Chillis. She is the Voice of Women National Coordinator, and for the first time ever, Helen had a chance to go with the Voice of Women, accompanying the 20 delegates to the Commission on the Status of Women, which is just finishing off their meetings. It was their 52nd session at the UN, and the Voice of Women does have official status. And this is Helen sending her greetings when she learned that there's going to be the event here today. As I have just returned from one of the most amazing experiences of my life, from New York, for the United Nations 52nd session on the Commission of the Status of Women, where thousands of women gathered to advocate for gender equality at all levels of society, including insisting on funding that's required for women's social programs, such as the one that we're keeping our fingers crossed and waiting to have an affirmative decision made upon. And it's so desperately needed. It reminded me also of the incredible achievements made by women over the past century, as we have sought for a sustainable world founded on justice and peace. I'm also reminded, says Helen, of March 8, which is the Day for International Peace and Women's Rights, a time where women, men, and children come together to celebrate not only the achievements, but that there is so much more to be done to achieve full equality. Wishing everyone here peace and joy, Helen Chillis. Now, I'd just like to say the Voice of Women has two key objectives that they are focusing in and putting a lot of energy in. And one of these is looking at the linkage and making the connect between the military expenditures and the nuclear proliferation, the stockpiling of weapons, and the poverty, diseases, the lack of resources in communities. It is obscene, and I'm sure you all agree with me, that $1.2 trillion goes into the pockets of the military-industrial complex.
Shame!
Shame! Enough! A large, 1.2 trillion, and that is Halliburton, Lockheed Martin, among others. Do you know that one combat ship can send 6.8 million children to school in Afghanistan for 9 years? So when we compare that kind of spending to gender development, the UN, regrettably, this is a statistic that it saddens me, that in all of their combined budgets, it works out that on women's issues, whether it's peacekeeping or empowerment or income generating projects for women, whatever they may be, Africa, anywhere, it's 0.005% of the world's military expenditures, which translates to approximately $7 per capita, as opposed to $184 per capita for military expenditures. It's a disgrace. It's absolutely shocking. And our Harper government is right there on the heels of Lockheed, of those military complexes, and that's what Val wants to know before the next election, that we have those linkages, that we're clear why communities like this community practically have to be standing on their knees begging for a very vital program that can do so much, not only for bringing women into a wage that is a livable wage, but it fits a need that's required. So that's one of the linkages, and the other one has to do with promoting Security Council Resolution 1325. In 2000, 168 countries signed in. Not a single country has actually implemented Security Council Resolution 1325. And what it is, it's about decision making. It's about women's voices at the table. And not a single country has implemented that. So this is what the work that Voice of Women is doing. I won't go into more statistics, and I would just invite you. We want the women of Canada who are promoting peace and who are concerned about sustainable communities and environment and the planet, our mother, we want to create and make greater linkages. And I'd be really happy to see that we perhaps seed a little branch here. Thank you very much, and enjoy the evening.
Good evening. Alex does send his regrets that he couldn't be here tonight. He had made arrangements to come, but he found out that he had to be in Ottawa yesterday for a confidence vote till late yesterday, and he's got to be back for one on Monday morning. So even though he's crazy enough sometimes to come back on Friday and fly out Monday morning, or Friday and fly out Sunday morning, to fly in Saturday and then fly out Sunday morning was a bit much. And anyway, there's a big snowfall there and he couldn't have made it anyway. So Alex Atamanenko is, what he did do actually was he gave me all these notes with circles and exclamations on them, and I kind of pieced them together to kind of bring you some greetings from him tonight. Alex Atamanenko is your NDP Member of Parliament for the riding of BC Southern Interior. And that riding runs from Salmo in the east all the way to Manning Park, from Argenta all the way to Big White. So it's quite a big riding. He's a proud card-carrying member of the West Kootenay Women's Association. And that's a fact that he likes to remind his male caucus colleagues of in Ottawa. Actually an NDP caucus, by the way, that has the largest percentage of women members of any party in the country, 41%. So it is really wonderful for me to be here today. I have so many memories of the Women's Centre and the Images paper and the women's festivals going back to the middle 70s. So. And it is now 33 years since 1975 International Year of the Woman. And while we've progressed in many ways since then, from the early 70s with the legal right to choose whether or not we want to carry a pregnancy or not, to matrimonial property laws now, to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, from going from women earning 49% of what men earn to now 70% of what men earn, we still have a long way to go. But make no mistake, much of what we take for granted now is under unrelenting attack. At the national level, the Conservative Harper federal government has axed or cut back many things, from the Court Challenges program, which enabled women's groups and minority groups to have resources to challenge human rights issues. They've axed that. From the status of women, they have, many offices have been closed down, funding has been cut back, and the very word and concept of equality has been removed from the criteria for any funding program. The Universal Childcare Act has been axed. So instead of affordable, universal, quality, accessible childcare that will enable parents to join the workforce and earn a decent living in a time when, as Marcia pointed out, we are crying for workers. What do we have? We have $100 a month per child, which would pay for 3 or 4 days of daycare for a few kids. So that they've axed. Under NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, and now under the notorious SPP, the Security and Prosperity Partnership Agreement, which some people call NAFTA on steroids. This is supported by the Conservative and the Liberal parties. Since NAFTA has come into being in the mid-80s, and it's kind of an international trade agreement, 80% of Canadian families have seen their income stagnate, and actually many of them seen that income fall 5 to 20%. So mostly wealthy people and the multinational corporations have benefited from these trade agreements. And it is the same story in last week's federal budget. Low and moderate families and individuals were hit the hardest. Single parents, First Nation women, older women, disabled women, women who don't have enough income to have the benefits of taxable income and tax credits, which is the Conservative Party's answer to poverty, or solution to poverty. Poverty which is in reality, is a reality for almost half of single, widowed, and divorced women over 65, and more than 40% of unattached women, and 40% of unattached women under 65, and 43% of single mothers. And it's worse in BC. These are Canada statistics. The 2008 federal budget took, for every $1 in new spending, and you got to understand this is the smallest budget federally in 11 years, for every $1 of new spending, $6 will go to corporate tax giveaways. In the next 2 years, revenue for personal income tax will go up by 12%, whereas revenue for corporate income tax will go down by 14%. This means the corporations will pay less and less, while we, you and I, pick up increased costs for programs that benefit the corporations more and more, and benefit you and your family and your friends less and less. Budget after federal budget, women have been waiting. It's not that we didn't, or we don't, at least now, have the money, and I'll get to that soon. 1/10 of the surplus this year would have been enough to operate over 100,000 desperately needed childcare spaces. $57 billion of workers' premiums for the employment insurance program, money that people have paid into our insurance, employment insurance program, has disappeared into general revenue and debt reduction, while people who need EI can't get it. This is despite the NDP and the Bloc federally last year trying to challenge the current EI program rigidity, where almost 60% of unemployed people are denied benefits that they should be entitled to. And this includes women who must look at part-time work because they understand the value to society of raising children, or they understand the need to their families in terms of taking care of their parents, which they are having to do more and more because of the cutbacks to the healthcare system. Just over 1/3 of working women are eligible for EI, only 1/3. And who are the winners in this federal budget? Our public healthcare system, with primarily women workers, public pension plan for our seniors, a new national affordable housing program that, my God, we so desperately need here and in this province? No. The only area of the federal budget that has received guaranteed levels of funding now and into the future is the military. $18 billion for the military, and that's just this past year. And now they have continued guaranteed annual increases at 1.5 to 2% into the future that would equal the cost of a new national housing program, just those increases, in 3 years. The follow-up prize goes to the big banks and the polluters. Yeah, the biggest ticket item under the environment is listed as nuclear energy. Canada had an opportunity with this federal budget. We still have significant yearly surpluses, but we may not in the future. Tax cuts have been massive. Corporate giveaway tax cuts have been massive, and the government surpluses to fund social programs are being significantly diminished. The budget dramatically escalates the ideology of NAFTA and the Security and Prosperity Partnership. There is more spending on the military not on international development, which is frozen at 0.3%, less than half of what the UN is calling for. There is more spending on border and security measures like microchipped passports and enhanced driver's license that will have microchips in them. Even the Office of the BC Privacy Commissioner has raised concerns around this. Labor market agreements are clearing the way for temporary foreign workers to come in and at the beck and call of corporations with no rights to immigrate, to bring families and put roots down, to be part of and contribute to communities, to our multicultural and healthy society, only to be sent home when they're not needed anymore. The EI insurance program that you and I pay for when we work is being sidelined into a new Crown corporation out of the eye of accountability of Parliament and the House of Commons. Does this put it at greater risk of privatization? We'll see. The devolution of national housing, health, unemployment, economic development, and infrastructure programs to the provinces from the federal, what used to be federally run, has meant less and less accountability and less standards across the country for what those programs look like, as we slowly lose sight of what national Canadian standards and what Canada looks like. National programs are being cut back, devolved, and deregulated, forced more and more by the Harper government into private market delivery systems where the rich will be able to afford what they need and the rest of us will have to make do or do without. Municipal infrastructure programs, and we're talking our sewers, not only just our sewers and our sidewalks, but we're talking our water systems, must now have a P3 partnership, a private-public partnership, to get federal funding. Harper has created, and I love this name, the PPP Canada Crown Corporation, which will work to privatize services, roads, broadband, short-haul railways, water, wastewater, green energy. Now, anyone in this room who was at hearing Maud Barlow earlier this week on Wednesday night at the Brilliant Cultural Centre will know the seriousness of this situation. This looks more and more like a security and prosperity agenda, where investors and corporations demands trump social programs and social development and workers' rights. And investors' champions, like our Premier Gordon Campbell, are literally testing the waters of BC, our waters, with the other provinces watching to see what we will do about the privatization of our energy, our resources, and our water. Alex Atamanenko and his NDP colleagues federally, and the NDP in this province and every other province across Canada are fighting this agenda. Our national and public institutions and programs that we hold dear and have worked, can work well with public dollars and with public administration, with governments that we elect and that are accountable to us, together with our friends and and neighbors in the civil society, in other political parties, in the labor movement, in the women's movement, and the environmental movement. Together we can make a difference and turn this around. This is not a time in history to be faint of heart. This International Women's Day, please find the strength within yourself, within the company of all of us in this room, and in the memory of the women who have gone before us and worked so hard every year, step by step, to try and make this world a better place, to inform yourselves, talk to others, and take action, whatever that looks like to you. For my part, for Alex Atamanenko's part, we will work to throw out this Harper Conservative government in the next federal election. Thank you.
I never done 5 feminist minutes before. I did 5 socialist minutes once. And it consisted of singing Murat Saad. Halfway through, the people paid me to stop. It was a great fundraiser. And that was a dynamite speech. Like that was very cool. I was asked to speak about two things. One is core funding for women's centers, and the other was poverty. And I'll deal with core funding first. There will never be core funding for women's centers in British Columbia until the government is dead. This present government is gone. Do not work for it, wish for it, write letters for it, organize for it, or count on it. It will never happen under the present government. They do not want women's centers to exist for a very important reason. Women's centers tend to generate information and noise and advocacy on behalf of women, and the absence of women's centers makes for silence, and silence is their preferred option. Ergo, it will not happen. Sorry. The second thing I want to talk, or was asked to talk about, is poverty. Geez, I can't do this. Standing still and talking is not my, I don't really know how to do it.
You've probably got a loud enough voice, you can stand out here and do it.
Is this okay? I was asked to speak about poverty. For the first time in my life, I'm 60, poverty is does not exist as a subject. First time ever that I know of in either of the two countries I've lived in. Poverty does not exist on the political agenda. It is now, I think, because Gordon Campbell was re-elected with the present frame of mind, it is now possible to govern without talking about the well-being of the people. Does that make sense, what I just said? It used to be the role of the state to try to assure that people had a good life. It's now possible to run for office without talking about whether or not people are hungry. I have never lived in such a time. Most of you have never lived in such a time. It is a brand new moment. Popular culture, television, centralization of media, the gap between wealth and most people, and certainly poor people, has grown to the place where it is now possible for the government to run an economy said to be a healthy economy, where year after year it's okay to have the highest amount of child poverty in Canada. Even the Business Council of British Columbia says you got to do something about child poverty. We don't do anything about it, and the government wins. I don't think there was ever such a time. When I was a little boy, I learned that fascism, not a little boy, a teenager, I learned the definition of fascism was when the state, the corporations, and labor all became the same people. And at present in British Columbia, I think we have 2 of those 3 components that are married. That is different. That is not the way Canada historically was run. This is a new moment. Mussolini said we shouldn't really call it fascism, that word makes trouble. We should call it corporatism, because we govern in marriage with the corporate sector. That is how we live here in British Columbia. That is the moment. In Pierre Trudeau's time, they talked about centralization of media. They said when they're all owned by the same people, democracy won't work. You are living in the time that they warned us about. There's a thing of great hope, I think, and that is that. Yeah, I know it would be good if I stopped this now. It would be good if I ended that rant. There is a thing of great hope, and that is that the cooperative movement in Spain was born under Franco, not under the good times, under the fascists. The CCF in Canada was born in the Dust Bowl, not in the good times. International Women's Day, born out of the burning of a factory with people in it, not after the labor movement gained strength. Nothing that we take for granted ever came out of being comfortable. Nothing. Not the healthcare system, not public education, not International Women's Day, not trade unions, nothing. And if our generation was to decide not to give away what our grandparents built, we could turn it around in 15 minutes. I absolutely believe that. I think. That is not rhetorical. I absolutely believe that for my generation, our comfort is in our way.
Can I add a little hope to that? Just as I was getting pretty hopeless and cynical, I got yesterday actually a phone call from my friend in Hawaii, who's a brilliant astrologer, and I said to her, "You'll never believe what's happening here. Harper's just signed a secret agreement in case of civic unrest. We're inviting the American military in." And that's just been signed. But that's the bad part. The good part is she says to me, well, she says the empire is crumbling. They're going to have so much civic unrest, they won't have the military might to worry about ours. First sign of hope. Second sign of hope was my friend Gita, who just finished a workshop with teachings that come actually out of Holland. And it is an offshoot of new governments that I believe is referred to as sociocracy. It's coming out of Holland. The guy who gave the workshop learned how to speak Dutch, just to get his finger on the pulse. And it is it is consensus. It has a certain hierarchy, but it's all circular. Gita's giving a gathering tomorrow at your doctor to explain it all to us. So when I'm hanging on by a great human hair to a hope.
Thank you. I want to encourage us to try to keep cynicism out of our hearts. Cynicism, that's when you think you can't change something. And once we do that, then we invite oppression. I'm going to close with this comment. The only time I ever learned in my life how regular people change the world, I was in Mexico meeting with some campesino folks who had come largely from Guatemala. And they had they had this little plan. And I thought, huge wisdom that we could absorb. First was, don't talk to anybody up above you, talk to the person next to you and figure out what do you have in common. Second step, figure out what you don't like about what you have in common. Third step, make a plan of something, anything to do about it that might make some change in what you don't like about what you have in common. Fourth step, take the plan and figure out what worked and what didn't work after you took the step. Fifth step, celebrate where you got to. Go back to step one. Talk to your friend, figure out what you have in common, take step two. Thank you for what you do and for 35, 40 years of doing it.